And as per usual, one of my eyebrows looks better than the other one. You know that saying that people are like, your eyebrows are sisters, not twins? My eyebrows aren't even sisters, they're like cousins. Like they look similar enough that you know that they're still family, but they're like hardly alike. And one of them is hotter than the other one. Hello everybody. So the other day I was at my job, I work at a library, putting books away, and I was in the fairy tale section just kind of flipping through the books that I was putting away. One of them was Rumpelstiltskin, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, man, there's like some weird stuff in this story. Like, I should make a video about just like me just reading Rumpelstiltskin and like talking about it. And so that inspired me to do this, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna read Rumpelstiltskin and talk to you about the weirdness that it is. But also I kind of want to do like a series like this, like just breaking down fairy tales, not breaking them down, but like, you know, going through them and just like pointing out the weird stuff and the plot holes. The thing is, I thought of this idea and I was like, great, I love it, I'm gonna do that. Then I remembered that Carrie Hope Fletcher did a series similar to this, I think. It was like her fairy fails thing, which I think was kind of like her talking about fairy tales and like the weird stuff in them and stuff. So let it be known that I thought of this idea before I remembered that she had that, so I'm not just copying her. Also, I'm pretty sure like this isn't original anyways to anyone. Like, there's probably a million people who do this. And it's just fun to look at fairy tales because some of them are so weird. So anyways, Rumpelstiltskin. I have always liked this fairy tale and I'm not really sure why. It's probably up there with my favorites. My favorite fairy tale of all time is Rapunzel. So the version I found is a PDF and it's allegedly the Brothers Grimm version. I didn't double check this with like any other versions, but according to this it's the Brothers Grimm, so. Also, I don't think copyright exists for fairy tales, right? They're all in the public domain. Let's hope so. Okay, so here's the story of Rumpelstiltskin. By the side of a wood, in a country a long way off, ran a fine stream of water, and upon the stream there stood a mill. The miller's house was close by, and the miller, you must know, had a very beautiful daughter. She was, moreover, very shrewd and clever, and the miller was so proud of her that one day he told the king of the land, who used to come and hunt in the wood, that his daughter could spin gold out of straw. This part has always seemed so extreme to me. Like, out of all the lies you could tell the king about your daughter, spinning straw into gold? Like, why not say that she's like a genius and super smart and can solve like math problems really quickly? Or that she could like play an instrument amazingly well? Why would you tell the king something impossible instead of like just lying about something that is humanly possible but maybe that your daughter just can't do? Like, now this king was very fond of money. Same. And when he heard the miller's boast, his greediness was raised, and he sent for the girl to be brought before him. Then he led her to a chamber in his palace, where there was a great heap of straw, and gave her a spinning wheel, and said, "All this must be spun into gold before morning, as you love your life." Question. What room in his castle is just full of piles of straw? Are they in a stable? Did he set this room up specifically for her? Does he just have a room full of straw? It was in vain that the poor maiden said that it was only a silly boast of her father, for that she could do no such thing as spin straw into gold. The chamber door was locked, and she was left alone. This is interesting. I think this is the first version of the story I've actually heard where the girl actually tells somebody that her father was lying, but I feel like none of the other ones mention that. Maybe I'm just forgetting the story, I don't know. But like, that's so harsh that they ignore her even after she said her dad was lying. Like, they're more likely to believe this guy who says his daughter can spin straw into gold than the daughter who's like, no, my dad is crazy. She sat down in one corner of the room and began to bewail her hard fate. Bewail? That's a word? When suddenly the door opened, and a droll-looking little man hobbled in and said, "Good morrow to you, my good lass. What are you weeping for?" "Alas," said she, "I must spin this straw into gold, and I know not how." She's not even questioning this, like, weird-looking little, like, dwarf man coming into her room. "What will you give me," said the hobgoblin, "to do it for you?" "My necklace," replied the maiden. He took her at her word, and sat himself down to the wheel, and whistled and sang, round about, lo and behold, reel away, straw into gold." And round about the wheel went merrily. The work was quickly done, and the straw was spun into gold. When the king came and saw this, he was greatly astonished and pleased, but his heart grew still more greedy of gain, and he shut up the poor miller's daughter again with a fresh task. Also, at this point, she's kind of screwed, because her defense of "my dad was lying" isn't gonna work anymore, because she obviously did it, so it's not like she can just say, "Hey, a tiny man walked into my room and did this for me," because, like, they're gonna believe that if they didn't believe her saying her dad was lying. Then she knew not what to do and sat down once more to weep, but the dwarf soon opened the door and said, "What will you give me to do your task?" "The ring on my finger," said she. So her little friend took the ring and began to work at the wheel again, and whistled and sang, round about, lo and behold, reel away, straw into gold, till, long before morning, all was done again. The king was greatly delighted to see all this glittering treasure, but still he had not enough, so he took the miller's daughter to yet a larger heap, and said, "All this must be spun tonight, and if it is, you shall be my queen." So, is he saying that she can be queen so that he has a more valid excuse to have her at the palace all the time? Like, is he just gonna suddenly, like, let her stop spinning straw into gold once she's the queen, or is he gonna, like, trap her in that room constantly under like the guise of them being married, so it's not like illegal. Like they described this guy as greedy about 50 times, so I'm pretty sure he's not just gonna let her stop, right? Or maybe he assumes she'll do it willingly once they're married? As soon as she was alone, that dwarf came in and said, "What will you give me to spin gold for you this third time?" "I have nothing left," said she. "Then say you will give me," said the little man, "the first child that you may have when you are queen." What an escalation. Like, he goes from just wanting her jewelry to being like, "Give me your unborn child." That may never be, thought the miller's daughter. And as she knew no other way to get her task done, she said that she would do what he asked. So she's just assuming that she's never gonna have a child. Like, I assume birth control wasn't great back then. Like, your chances of getting pregnant are super high. Like, and I guess the king is gonna kill her if she doesn't do this. And so she has to agree somehow. But there must have been, like, a better way. Like, maybe being like, "Hey, I don't have anything to give you currently, little dwarf man, but once I am queen, I'll give you, like, all the treasure we have. Not my kid." Round went the wheel again to the old song, and the mannequin once more spun the heap into gold. The king came in the morning and, finding all he wanted, was forced to keep his word. So he married the miller's daughter, and she really became queen. Like, it was forced to keep his word, like he didn't really want to marry her. He was just kind of like bluffing. At the birth of her first little child, she was very glad and forgot the dwarf and what she had said. How do you just forget that you made a pact with a small demon to hand over your child? She's so stupid. But one day he came into her room, where she was sitting playing with her baby, and put her in mind of it. Then she grieved sorely at her misfortune, and said she would give him all the wealth of the kingdom if he would let her off. "That was my suggestion before, and you didn't think of it till now?" She said she would give him all the wealth of her kingdom if he would let her off, but in vain, till at last her tears softened him, and he said, "I'll give you 3 days' grace, and if during that time you tell me my name, you shall keep your child." I mean, look, to be honest, he's not being that bad. He's really giving her a chance to, like, win the kid back. Also, my question is, what does he want to do with the kid? Is he gonna, like, take it home and eat it? Is he gonna, like, raise it? Maybe he just really wants a child and he can't have one on his own, so he just, like, takes other people's? I want to know this guy's backstory. Like, how malicious are his intents? The queen lay awake all night, thinking of all the odd names she'd ever heard, and she sent messengers all over the land to find out new ones. Can you just imagine this conversation for a second? I'm sorry, you need me to do what now? Oh, I want you to go all over the kingdom and ask everybody what their names are and find out all of the weird names that you can. Like, every single weird name in this kingdom, I want to know it. The next day the little man came, and she began with Timothy, Ichabod, Benjamin, Jeremiah, and all the names she could remember. Like, no offense to those people. Jeez. None of these are that strange. None of these are weird names. But to all and each of them he said, "Madam, that is not my name." The second day she began with all the comical names she could hear of. Bandy-legs, Hunchback, Crookshanks, and so on. Okay, I want to know what people in the kingdom her messengers found that had these names, because they must have had a pretty rough life. Like, can you imagine being in, like, a school as a little kid with the name Bandy-legs or Crookshanks? These all nicknames, or were these like birth names? I can't imagine someone's birth name being Hunchback. The third day one of the messengers came back and said, "I have traveled 2 days without hearing of any other names." This must suck for them. I imagine it takes forever to go through the entire kingdom asking every single person what their name is, seeing if they can find a weird one. They probably don't get paid enough for it either. Justice for these messengers. But yesterday, as I was climbing a high hill among the trees of the forest where the fox and the hare bid each other good night, I saw a little hut, and before the hut burnt a fire, and round about the fire a funny little dwarf was dancing upon one leg and singing, "Merrily the feast I'll make. Today I'll brew, tomorrow bake. Merrily I'll dance and sing, for next day will a stranger bring. Little does my lady dream, Rumplestiltskin is my name." When the queen heard this, she jumped for joy, and as soon as her little friend came, she sat down upon her throne, and called all her court round to enjoy the fun. She's gonna drag him in front of her entire court? What a savage! And the nurse stood by her side with her baby in her arms, as if it was quite ready to be given up. Then the little man began to chuckle at the thought of having the poor child, to take home with him to his hut in the woods. They didn't really say what they're gonna do with him. Again, maybe he just wants to raise the child. Not that that justifies him taking it away from its mother, but you know, it's not like he was gonna hurt it. And he cried out, "Now lady, what is my name?" "Is it John?" asked she. "No, madam." "Is it Tom?" "No, madam." "Is it Jemmy?" "It is not." "Girl, yesterday you were saying names like Crookshanks, so you're not fooling anyone." Like, she's trying to be clever, but we've seen her in the rest of this fairy tale, and she's not. "Can your name be Rumpelstiltskin?" said the lady slyly. "Some witch told you that! Some witch told you that!" cried the little man, and dashed his right foot in a rage so deep into the floor that he was forced to lay hold of it with both hands to pull it out. This part is so hilarious to me. Like, he must be, like, unnaturally strong. Like, he just stamps his foot so hard that it goes through the floor. And, like, floors back in medieval times, which is what I'm assuming this was, were, like, pretty hard. Like, those were, like, solid planks of wood. Like, he has to have some sort of, like, magical strength, right? Then he made the best of his way off, while the nurse laughed and the baby crowed, and all the court jeered at him for having so much trouble at nothing, and said, "We wish you a very good morning and a merry feast, Mr. Rumpelstiltskin." Why are they being so mean to him? Like, it's your queen that was the one that was totally up for just handing her baby over to a stranger. And that is the end. What a ride. The thing that's weird about the story is that it tries to like paint the girl as some sort of like clever hero, when in actuality she's pretty dumb. Everyone in the story is dumb except for Rumpelstiltskin. Look, the messenger is the real hero of the story, the one who found out Rumpelstiltskin's name. We should be celebrating him more. Mainly, I want to know what Rumpelstiltskin's intentions with this child were. Like, what's his backstory? Somebody write me a Rumpelstiltskin backstory. Not Once Upon a Time. Something I want a different one. One that's closer to the actual fairy tale. That might actually be the reason that I like the story so much, is that it's like Rumpelstiltskin, who's like the villain of the story, is actually the only likable character. Like, he's clever, and he's the only one that like does anything other than that messenger, who's like probably now my favorite character. Maybe this is where my love for villains started, because he is kind of a villain because he wants to steal her child, but like it's more of a gray area because we don't know what he wants to do with the child. Other than that, he's not super villainous. Related to that, sometime I want to do a video on like morally complex characters, because those are my favorite kinds of characters. Like characters that are either like the protagonist but not technically heroes or even really good people, but they're not like bad people either. Or villains that aren't necessarily evil but they're not good. Like, you know, a morally gray area in between is fascinating to me. Also, if you know of any books that include characters like that, please let me know, because they're my favorites. Oh, my camera's dying, so I gotta make this quick. I think I'm gonna do more of these, kind of keep it a series maybe, like go through a bunch of fairy tales and just give my take on them, because I really genuinely do love fairy tales. They're just fun to read, as weird as they are, and they're just like such classics, you know? Like staples in literature. Believe me, when you're going for an English degree, you read a lot of fairy tales, especially if you take a children's literature class.